Alright guys, I'm back here once again for part 2 of my book collection. Sorry that the first part, it took so long. I kind of got wrapped up and explained, some of the books. But, in this one, I'm going to try and put all the rest of my books into this one. And, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So, the next shelf I'm going to show off are some of my, teen novels. And, some more bios. So, without further ado, I'm going to get started. Let me just move this real quick. Now, the first books right over here are all from the same author, S.E. Hinton. I'm a big fan of her work. She has written some of the best teen books. And, I've always wanted to just manage to get all of her books in my collection. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first one to show off is a book that I read in 7th grade English class. And I absolutely loved it. And it is, no, they fell. The Outsiders. Now, I think everybody that's read this book knows this is an amazing story. It's basically about, two groups of teenagers. One of them are, these greasy, sort of poor kids, and then the other ones are rich. And it's basically the story about the main character, Ponyboy, who he feels very alienated. He feels very lonely in the world. And he doesn't really get respect, It's all about the rich kids getting, all the respect, all the girls, all the, all the cool cars or whatever. And it's basically just him and his two brothers. And it's just a really, really amazing story. And this is definitely one of, if not my favorite book. I definitely have to say that. I love the movie as well. The movie is definitely in my top 10 favorite movies, but this is just the hardback copy I got at a secondhand store. It's really cheap, and I got it for like $3, and it's really, really great. I think that this has been called like the greatest young adult novel of all time. So if you're a fan of young adult novels or teen novels, then I highly recommend The Outsiders and all of her books. The other one, this is just a smaller, paperback copy of it, The Outsiders, but this one actually has an interview with S.E. Hinton, which was really cool. But yeah, like I said, probably my favorite book and one of my favorite movies. I just love that story. And then here's her second book, That Was Then, This Is Now, which I think is probably my least favorite of all of her books. Next up we have Rumblefish. I don't remember a lot about this one, but I enjoyed all of her books to an extent. And then Tex. I remember really enjoying this one. This is probably my third favorite book that she did, Tex. Hang on a sec, my books are falling. And then this is probably my second favorite book of hers after The Outsiders, Taming the Star Runner. I really, really enjoyed this one. But like I said, if you're a fan of young adult novels and S.E. Hinton's books, all of her books are amazing. I definitely recommend checking them out. I have read like one of her kid books, and I was, it was a children's book, so of course I wasn't really into it, but like I said, if you're a fan of young adult S.E. Hinton, it's the way. And now this next one is just a small little book called Movie Monsters, and it's basically just, pictures of like some of the best, classic monsters in movies. Like there's Frankenstein, Nosferatu, of course, Jason and Freddy, Michael Myers, Leatherface. And it's basically, just like each, just like a picture of some monster. Like right there's a Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then there's the tag, and it has the tagline for the film, and then, some information about it. Like there's one from The Thing, John Carpenter's remake, and there's information down there. And there's that. It's just a, a nice little, just a cool little, like, fact book, which I thought was pretty neat. And now the next two books are actually about an event that kind of affected me, and I'm sure it affects every other kid that goes to high school, and is the Columbine High School Massacre. I don't have a lot of memories of when the Columbine Massacre, happened, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten more interested in the subject. I'm actually really, really interested in true crime books, and, just anything true crime related. And Columbine was always something that stuck in my head because, you know, I related to both the killers and I related to the victims. You know, and I think that Columbine is just one of those stories about, you know, what could happen if two kids are pushed, you know, just pushed to their limits. The first thing I have is the Journals of Rachel Scott, which if you know about Columbine, then you know Rachel Scott was the first girl that died on Columbine. I'm not going to get into this a lot. There was they did the Rachel's Challenge thing in my school, and I actually found this book at a Goodwill like the week after. And you know, even though I know that I don't want to say anything to offend anybody, but even though her story is actually based on a lie, or well, yeah, it's based on a lie, I still agree with her message. You know, I agree with, you know, if start a chain reaction. If you do something good for one person, in turn they'll do something good for another person, and then another person, and so on. So I do agree with that. But this is just all of her journals, you know. And now this one, this is another book that's gotten a lot of criticism, but it's also been praised, and it is the book Columbine by Dave Cullen. I know you can't really see that, it says Columbine right there, but this is basically just, you know, a biography about the Columbine massacre, as well as all the events leading up to it and afterwards, and it goes into detail about, you know, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold's lives, and it's just, you know, it was a really, really good book. I know that, like I said, it's been really criticized, but at the same time, it's considered like one of the best books about Columbine. I've not read any of the others, so like I said, I'm only going through what I've been told or what I've read about it. So, it's the book Columbine. And then the last one, the last book right here is A World Turned Over, which I have not read, but it's about a tornado. And when I was younger, I used to have a huge fascination with tornadoes. Tornadoes and volcanoes. Pretty much anything that was like a national disaster. And I do have a lot of like small, short books. You know those books that you could probably go to like the library and pick up, and they're basically just information about you know, national disasters and pictures. I have tons of tornado and volcano books that I'm not showing off in this video because I know it's gonna be it'll be pretty long. But this was just a novel. But like I said, I might do a separate video where I just show off all of my tornado and volcano books and movies, because I have a lot of them. Now I'm going to get into the novels right down here. I'm just going to pull each of them out and show them. The first one is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. One of my favorite fairy tale type things. I enjoy reading this around Halloween time because it has a really good October feel. It also has Rip Van Winkle in it as well, which I have not read. Speaking of tornadoes, this is the book called Twister, and well, this is based on the 1994 film with Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, and it goes into detail about actual tornadoes as well as the making of the movie. And for those of you who may not know, Twister is probably my first or second favorite movie of all time. This next book is about a school shooting, but it's a made-up school shooting. It's called Shooter. And it's basically just a bunch of it's basically interviews with the people that went through it, the people that knew the killer. I tried to look it up and see if it was based on a true story, but it wasn't. Then we have my book of Jaws 2. I'm a big fan of the Jaws franchise and films, and so I thought I'd get this. I still have not read this one, and I don't even have the first one, which I'm sure is probably surprising. But I really want to read the first, you know, original Jaws book. Then we have In the Dark, which is basically is another true crime book about a killer called the Blackout Ripper, who basically murdered a bunch of prostitutes, and he basically murdered some people in 1942 in London. And it's a really good book. You know, if you're a fan of true crime, this is definitely one I'd recommend. It was written by Simon Reed, or Red. But there's that. And now we have The Amityville Horror. I was a fan of the movie. I wanted to get the book. And even though I noted the book is probably a lie, I still enjoyed this book. It's really, really creepy, and it's really, really well done. I remember being pretty creeped out by it, actually. But, you know, there's that one. And then, one of the best horror writers right here, Edgar Allan Poe. This is basically a collection of, you know, his mysteries, his short stories. There's like The Black Cat and The Pit and the Pendulum, and it's just a pretty cool book. This is just a cool little movie quiz trivia book that I have. I've not read it, but, you know, it's just... Alright. Now, the next two books are actually based on two of my favorite movies, which I will talk about, but it's My Girl and My Girl 2. My Girl, I actually grew up watching that movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and it's one of my favorite love stories, and I just got this book that's based on the movie. And the second one is really, really good, too. I haven't read the books. I've read a little bit of the first one, and it's a lot different than the actual, you know, they're based on the screenplay of the movie, but the next one, Shadowland, by Peter Straub. Really, really good, creepy ghost story right here. I definitely recommend this one for anybody, you know, who enjoys some good horror books. This one was really well done. And then here's another book by Peter Benchley, who wrote Jaws, White Shark. I've not read this one yet, but, you know, of course, since it was written by Peter Benchley, who did Jaws, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. This one, I'm not sure if this is part of a series, but it's called The Hollow Horseman, and it's basically like a dramatized version of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, only with teenage kids. And I think they're either in high school or middle school. I can't remember, but yeah, it's a pretty good one. And now this is one book that I read in again in 7th grade, and it's called The Weirdo. And this is a really good book. It's basically about this boy named Chip who lives out in the swamp, and he's you know, he's like considered he's deformed, and he's really, really tall, and people, they don't like to talk to him or even like to see him. And then this girl named Samantha moves in from the city, and it's basically it turns into a bit of a love story. But this is a really great book. If anyone's interested, Theodore Taylor wrote it, who also wrote The K, which is another, you know, just amazing book. But The Weirdo, really, really good one. If anybody's a fan of, you know, definitely recommend this one. Really great novel. I'm going to go through these pretty fast. The next one is Clive Barker's Books of Blood, Volume 3. I've read this book, and it's a pretty good short story collection. I'm a big fan of, you know, Clive Barker's, I think I said Clive Barker, apologize. But I'm a big fan of the Hellraiser series, and so I thought I'd check out some of his short stories. And this is Volume 3. And I love that artwork right there on it. Really creepy. There's the demented Mickey Mouse, or mouse on the side. It's cool. And it's got 5 stories, including Rawhead Rex, which they made into a movie. I've not seen the film. Next one, this is E.T., The Book of the Green Planet. Just you know, I'm a fan of the movie E.T., and I just thought this was just a cool book. It's based on the screenplay. And then one of my favorite horror directors, Wes Craven. This is a book about his life, The Man and His Nightmares. It was written by John Woolley, and it's a really, really great book. It goes into detail about his entire life, you know, and I got this for a pretty cheap price, which I was really surprised. But yeah, and it's got a lot of great pictures in it as well. So if you're a fan of Wes Craven, this is really one good one. I don't know if he's ever written a book about his life. I think he should. The next one is a biography about professional skateboarder, and it's called Dropping In with Andy Mack. You know, I love skateboarding, and this was just one book that I just saw at I forget where I got it from, but, you know, I just saw it and was like, oh, that sounds good, so I decided to pick it up. And the last book here is a book called Woz, and I don't know anything about it, but I think it has something, it's related to the Wizard of Oz, and I think it also has, like, you know, stuff about a tornado, and it's just, I really don't know exactly what it's about. I'll eventually read it sometime, but, you know, till then. Well, guys, I'm going to have to go ahead and split this video up into part 3 because I'm almost out of time on this video. But anyway, guys, if you guys have read any of the books that I've shown off in this video, definitely let me know if you like them, or let me know what you guys think about them. And I hope you guys are enjoying these videos, because like I said, I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to show you guys something that you know, something else I enjoy doing besides movies all the time. So, you know, those are all this one. So that was the whole shelf right there, and then for part 3, I'm going to finish this shelf right here. So, there you go, guys. That was part 2, and I'll see you guys at part 3.